Thank you for inviting me to the second International Marketing Conference. I'm sorry I cannot be there in person. This year's conference theme on customer engagement and experience is very timely. First of all, customers are all becoming more and more co-producers, especially as all mature economies and even emerging economies are becoming more and more services-driven economies. Even in non-services industries, customers are becoming almost like employees doing yourselves everything. Today we have everything self-service, for example. The ATM machines are taking the role of the physical teller in a bank, as just an example. We all do airline reservations on our own now. We just go to the website. And of course, the rise of the e-commerce in such a significant way, not just in advanced economies, but all over the world, including China and India, are all creating customers as co-producers or co-creators. In that case, customer engagement, customer interaction, customer experience becomes very important. In other words, interactivity is quite important. The second main reason, and I think the fundamental reason, is that for the first time, we are now shifting the focus away from buying or buyer to the user. To me, buyer behavior focused always in the seller and the buyer relationship, and therefore we were more and more product oriented. But as we shift more and more toward the users, we are separating marketing from selling. There are three distinct roles of a customer. A customer is a buyer, is a payer, and a user. And in business to business marketing, it is very clear because you have the accounts payable department for the paying or specialization. You, of course, have the procurement department for the buying organization. And of course, you have the users either in the company or factory for value addition for factory workers. I think in household market, also you have the same three roles. A child may be the user, the husband actually may be the buyer, and the wife may be the payer in terms of managing the budget for the family. I think for the first time, customer engagement and experience is now allowing us to understand and have a broader definition of who the customer is, which becomes very valuable. Third and equally important reason is that more and more there is a consumer activism. Consumers are becoming Ralph Naders of their own. They are very vigilante. They share information with each other. They keep the free market process in checks and balances because they do not rely on the regulators to do the job properly or the policymakers. Even though there may be laws, there is not enough enforcement all over the world. And events happen after a crisis. So now consumers are taking charge. And today that's much more possible because you do have access to information on a global basis instantly. I mean, I can go to Google or any search platform today and find anything I want to know about anything in the world instantly. I'm amazed how much information is archived, cataloged properly like a library, and access to the digital library on anything in life is just mind-boggling to me. And the last factor, and equally important, is that today with online ordering and with social media word-of-mouth communication, I can get consumer feedback and customer feedback and adapt myself much faster today than what was possible in the industrial age. All of this suggests that customer engagement and user experience will become very critical as we go forward. So the theme of the conference is very timely and very forward-looking. One of the key aspects in customer engagement and customer experience is to enable the marketer or encourage the marketer to focus on after sales. Most marketing is organized around acquiring a customers, preparing for the sale, close of the sale. We have the typical notion of course, a suspect, a prospect, and a customer, etc. Today the focus is more, in fact, on post sales, and customer retention, customer loyalty is becoming increasingly important as we compete on a global basis. And as advanced economies begin to become more mature and the growth rate is very low, customer retention is becoming much more critical than customer acquisition. In any case, in mature economies, 90 to 95% of the market is already created or developed, except maybe in emerging economies. Most marketing is organized to influence purchase and to close the deal. That's the role of advertising, to influence, to reinforce, to persuade. Sales promotions close the deal, and of course, physical sales force, such as, for example, Amway distributors or Avon Cosmetics, or in fact, B2B markets where you do have a direct sales force or distributor sales force, if nothing else. Their whole job is to organize, to influence the purchase and close the sale. Now, for the first time, we need to have customer engagement that brings in customer support organization, or what is known as after sales services. It is probably the most strategic piece of marketing, but we never integrate it properly. In other words, we have three phases: pre-sales activities, which is market research, branding, positioning; sales process itself, as I talked about, from suspect to prospect to customers, etc. And of course, post-sales, which is a customer support organization. And in many companies before the CRM days, these three were independent silos, and we had a lot of knowledge about the customer in each of the silos, but no integration of that knowledge. Today, it is very possible to do that, again, because of the affordable online technology or the internet, whatever word you would like. As the world goes more digital, we can easily accommodate and integrate these three key functions of marketing and look at the interdependence among all that. I do want to mention one additional factor, and that is that customer engagement also gets you into thinking about customer lifetime value. In other words, what can we do as marketers after the sale? In consumer markets, we already know that most consumers actually read the advertisements after the buying the product to rationalize, or we call cognitive dissonance. Is there any activity that we can do, which is possible today if it is online and data centric, to reinforce the purchase that the customer just made? And I can do it instantly even. I can even give reward for future purchases, or they call it cookies, or whatever they call it. And therefore, it makes us think about the customer lifetime value. And I've been amazed how a mundane, simple product, if you take repeat purchases, let's say toothpaste, shampoo, shaving blades, doesn't matter. Over 15, 20 years of the life of a household, it becomes a pretty large sum of money. In other words, it becomes almost like a subscription model, even though each one is a discrete transaction. And of course, in services like utilities or banking or telephone services, basically customer surrenders the choice first time they make it. It is the marketer who is responsible for not continuing the loyalty. Often the loyalty is destroyed because marketer constantly changes the database, interrupts the whole flow. Customers are very happy. So the lifetime value of a customer becomes a very key ingredient. In fact, if you are a retailer which offers all the products, let's say Amazon on the one hand, Flipkart in India, for example, or even a department store, Shopper Stop, Metro, whatever they are. In the US context, we know a typical grocery store, the lifetime value of a household at least is at least about $500,000. Think about the lifetime value of an automobile buyer. Not just the automobile, the financing of the automobile, the repair maintenance of the automobile, and replacement cycles over time. You're talking about a multi-million-dollar consumer or a customer out there. And there are touch points all throughout, which we can understand through customer engagement and customer experiences. How do you harness the power of customer engagement? We know this is very possible. It's a gold mine of opportunity, but how do we leverage that? How do we utilize it for the organization? So I have several recommendations to make how to harness the power of customer engagement and customer experience. By the way, in addition to customer lifetime value, there are two additional benefits that happens if we engage with the customers properly. I just wrote a paper where I just figured out that in the old paradigm of relationship marketing, we talked about the trust and commitment. Remember those two constructs? Well, I find trust is necessary anyhow, which is a necessary condition in any transaction, but it is not the commitment, but it is the engagement, the interaction that establishes a relationship. I may be committed in a relationship, but if I don't communicate, if I don't have interaction, the relationship quality is not the same. So to me, the real constructs of relationship marketing are trust and engagement, which is why customer engagement becomes very important or strategic in the future. It also leads to strong word of mouth communication. You do have the practice called Net Promoter Score, customer satisfaction, but the word of mouth is very key. The positive word of mouth, today customer can engage through their experiences, and also it's a great laboratory for feedback. If I go to Yelp or any one of those online places where consumers give their experiences and share them with others, it has both a positive and a negative impact. It's a very powerful resource or a tool out there. I have a doctoral dissertation going on right now about the impact of word of mouth communication, for example, in the hotel business, hotel motel business. And fascinating results are out there about the way consumers who experience something and post it on online, and how does that impact. Remember, the old concept of word of mouth used to be that it's limited to neighbors. Today, the whole world is your neighbor. Internet has a reach that's incredible. It is global. It is instantaneously. It's a very rich medium. I can put my emotion through my voice, for example, by video recording. I can have my image. I can have my text. All forms of communication, I can do it. So this is very powerful as a third mechanism. Namely, it is a great laboratory for us to do market research, or what I call listening post. So how do you harness this particular power of the customer or customer engagement? Here are the points. My view is that first of all, a company must appoint a chief engagement officer. A customer engagement officer is as important as a chief marketing officer. It could be in the marketing silo or could be a standalone even. It could be a part of the customer support organization. Second one is that more often than not, especially in services industries, it is as important to shape customer expectations as it is actually to exceed customer expectations. While we have very rightfully focused on customer satisfaction, for example, or on market segmentation, but the problem is that the customers come with such wide expectations, and you cannot deliver all those expectations. So you can segment the market, you can position your product, but you need to also shape the expectations of customers toward what is the reality out there. And therefore, some form of a shaping customer expectation activity is equally important by having this knowledge about customer experiences. Third, I strongly recommend selecting a world-class social media disc jockey. Just like we have disc jockey on radio, for example, FM stations. We may have talk show hosts, for example. This is nothing new. It was done on radio stations in the old days. It has been done before, but now we are talking about in the internet age, and having a world-class social media disc jockey is very key, because you can now really steer the conversation in the right way, which is beneficial to you as a marketer, for example. The next one is that we are generating so much of information, not just numerical, but text information and more video information and imaging information. So how do we curate all these customer experiences and put it together and create out of that one what I call consumer insights? Consumer insights is probably the hottest area in marketing today, especially with the use of big data and analytics. So how do you create consumer insights which we can feed into the organization? And in many ways, this particular consumer insight laboratory that one creates by having customer engagement and customer experience probably becomes better innovative platform for innovation than anything else. Now, in the old days, we did that thing with the 800 number calling. In other words, inbound calls. I remember doing a massive research on this one for Whirlpool Corporation. We called it a cool line. We thought that it will be mostly for complaints and praise, and we found 90% of the calls had nothing to do with complaints or praise, but it had more to do with about inquiries. So what was a call center as a cost center, we converted into a revenue center by finding findings out of that one and then distributing in the organization where people had to pay, whether you are a refrigerator group, for example, a laundry group, for example, a sales function, for example, and an R&D function. And we came out with all interesting innovations. So customer engagement and customer experience allows you to become real-time laboratory. And the reason why this is very important is that today we have the technology for lean operations. I can do mass personalization. I can do rapid cycle time, for example. I can improve the quality at much lower unit cost than what was possible at one time. In other words, economies of scale is becoming more and more at a nano level, not at a large mass scale level. And I can leverage this information by real prototyping. I can actually go into the market with more new SKUs, variety that I can offer, see what happens and come back, and I can do my real market testing very differently than at one time possible. So these are the things with which one can harness the power of the customer engagement. Let me summarize quickly. Customer engagement is probably the next frontier in marketing for exciting new marketing challenges and opportunities. Customers are co-producers. They are basically doing more and more self-managed, self-service services by and large. And the lifetime value of a customer is enormous. They are also great ambassadors if they like your product. And you can mass personalize it. And I think this power can be harnessed positively by creating a separate department headed up by what I would call a Chief Customer Engagement Officer. It can become the real laboratory in addition to the regular R&D laboratory, which comes from the scientific breakthroughs, whereas this is usage breakthroughs. Customers always innovate in the usages in the way we never imagined when the product was designed. There are all kinds of folklores about how consumers use products differently than what the product was meant for in the original design, whether it's a nylon by DuPont, for example, or baking soda. Baking soda is used not as much for baking bread as it is for odor killing, for example, or as it is for abrasion like a toothpaste and detergents. It's mind-boggling. And most of the users have come in mature economies by consumers giving feedback and information as to how they use the product differently than what the marketer designed or even promoted the product. I'm sorry I cannot be there again as a speaker, but I hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much.